Think we are live. I think we are live. Hello, hello. All right. I think we're ready to rock. Are you ready to rock? Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Wizard Lair at Infinite. I did make an event for this one. Just posted in the Infinite groups, so hopefully a few people catch the link and tune in. Regardless, this is recorded. So for those that can't make it live, if you're watching this, let me know. Drop a comment. Comment replay if you're catching the replay. And what's up to the warrior watching live? It's going to be a fun one today. Gonna wait another minute or two, see if someone else wants to join in. It's all the fun. Can't wait to share more about my story so you can learn from it. And don't make the same mistakes that I made when it comes to the fitness game and how to play it. Because there are wrong ways to play the fitness game. I'll tell you that. And then there are more effective ways to play it. And it's a game that you can sometimes win, sometimes lose, but it's a forever type of game. It's a game that you play your whole life. You can win one moment, and then the next moment you can start losing. So excited to kind of dive a little bit into that today, in that type of journey that I went on when it comes to winning and losing this forever game, or what we call as the infinite game at Infinite. Let's see here, give me 1 second. All right. Well, I am going to get started here. If this is your first time tuning in and seeing my face for the first time and what's on my shirt, my name is Walter Chambers. I'm the founder, lead designer, and master wizard at INFITNITE, the fitness fantasy RPG, where we help casual gamers all the way up to industry executives transform their mind, body, and spirit by turning fitness into a role-playing game. I'm excited to dive deep into the topic of muscle building this week. So, muscle building has been a common theme amongst everyone at Infinite recently, simply because we just recently released our Earth Mastery, which specializes in muscle building inside of our Infinite Academy. Our academy is our online group course experience where you go through interactive quests, video quests, you learn, you engage in activities and take action and earn XP and level up in the process. So we just introduced muscle building. Previously, we had fat loss in our academy, and that has been around for almost 2 years now with wild success. If you want to learn more about the transformations that you can embark on yourself inside the Infinite Academy, feel free to go to infiniterpg.com and head over to transformations. And of course, if you want to play Infinite and learn more about the Academy, feel free to head over to our website as well and go into Adventure, where you can select your realm, or what we call as our game mode, so that you can get started and go on your journey. All that being said, let's dive straight into a little bit of a background of my story when it comes to building muscle and just getting into fitness in general. So my journey started when I was 14 years old. When I was 14 years old, that's when I told my dad that I wanted to play football in high school. I actually wanted to play football in middle school once I went into the 7th, 8th grade. But apparently there was an age limit. I was 1 year older than all the other kids in my grade. And also there was a weight limit. So I was over 150 pounds when I was in middle school. So basically I couldn't play football in middle school. I had to wait till high school. So my dad bought me a weight bench and a barbell. And that's when I really started to lift weights. But it even goes back even further than that. Before even I wanted to lift weights, I was actually designing programs. So I was reading a lot of bodybuilding magazines and going on a lot of bodybuilding websites to basically learn about weightlifting and learn about training. I wanted to learn about how people are working out, how people are getting six-pack abs and building muscle. And this was all the way back in 2005. So I was putting together workout programs from like Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was just really seeing how they were training. And what I would do is I would just take their exercises, not really knowing how to effectively use them or understand what muscle groups that they're working, but I would just take this exercise and be like, oh, I like this exercise, I like this one. I would put it together, and basically I would make a training program. Now, did I do the training program? No, of course not. Right? I didn't have access to a gym. I didn't have any of that stuff until high school. So I started off doing just simple bench pressing when I started at 14. And once I went into high school, I started playing football. And that's when I started to actually do resistance training, specifically strength and conditioning. My first coach, my first mentor, was one of my football coaches, Giannetti. He was a former New York Giants lineman, and he taught me a lot of what I know today when it comes to being inside the gym, how to progress in the gym. And one lesson I'll give, one piece of wisdom that I'll share that he's taught me that has a lot more weight now is form over weight, right? That's something you probably heard before, but back then, when you are as weak as a duckling, uh, you didn't really care. It was all about how much weight you could lift, and how to get stronger and how to get bigger, and technique was uh, going through one ear and out the other essentially. But now, as I've gotten older and as I had way more experience in the gym, especially mentoring and teaching other warriors who either are starting out like I did or highly experienced, form and technique will protect your body and will actually improve the results that you are getting. So that's one piece of wisdom that I'll share with you right off the jump: is form over weight. No matter what you're doing, that will have a massive, massive impact on not just your results, but also your longevity inside the gym or doing any type of training in general, especially as you age. So that was a little bit of a brief background. I played football for 3 years, did strength and conditioning, got into a pretty decent strength level, but one of my biggest problems was gaining mass. And big reason why was I was out on the football field 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days, and I'm running, I'm doing drills, I'm doing all kinds of conditioning and cardiovascular type training, plyometrics, wearing football helmet and equipment and heat, and I was burning a shiz ton of calories, a lot of calories. So I basically was just not eating enough. I didn't care enough about nutrition. All I cared about was surviving, um, not being sore, and satisfying my hunger. That's about it. I didn't care much about protein until later on in high school, once I started to learn a lot more about nutrition specifically. And that was one of the also biggest regrets that I have till this day, is another piece of wisdom. Um, Overemphasize protein, period. Overemphasize it. Eat more protein than you think you can or need to, and do that for the rest of your life. That will protect your body. It will help you build more muscle, and it will help you recover a lot faster. And I wish I started emphasizing protein more when I was younger, especially when I was trying to build muscle when I was younger. So yeah, activity level is a huge, huge factor, and I'll get into that in a moment once I actually show you a lot of my transformations and what I was doing to kind of generate those transformations. So stay tuned for that. So other than that, coming out of high school, that's when I went into college, and that's when I really started to have a big transition when it comes to focusing on health and fitness a lot more. I'm not going to go super deep into my background, my story, but basically I completely stopped exercising and focusing on my health for a long period of time, at least the beginning part of my college career, and I had a pretty life-changing experience that got me to not only refocus on my own personal health and fitness goals, but empower and educate and help transform other people's lives as well. So it has been a very, very tough journey, especially during that period of time when getting back into health and fitness, but that's when I really started to get a lot more educated. And I guess this is the great start to where my transformations really started. A little bit of another piece of information. You've gotten my experience when it comes to getting into health and fitness, doing weight training through sports and things like that. If you had zero background, especially back when middle school, high school in sports, or you've never been to the gym yet, that doesn't mean that you're that far off. There's a huge, huge opportunity to learn twice, almost 10 times faster than I did, simply by just getting guidance and support and mentorship. So there is a huge opportunity for rapid growth. You can get incredible results very, very fast with the right guidance, the right tools, and the right systems. And I believe we have that at Infinite. So let me actually show you what that process and what these systems are like, and what that journey was like for me in creating these systems that all of our warriors are currently using to get results as we speak. So let me share my screen. Who's ready? Who's excited? Who's excited to see some transformations? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. You excited to see some transformations? Let's check them out. So, the journey really picks off in college. So, to the left, this is a snapshot that I took the moment before I started to change my life. This is a powerful, powerful picture to me, because what you see is someone who was insecure about their body, who was struggling with mental health, who was not ambitious, who was not striving for anything, and was not using exercise as a way to get through anything, to get through life, and to navigate through depression, all these different things. This picture is powerful because I'm actually sucking in my gut, like, tremendously in this picture, and it's wild. This was the start of, I guess this is the true start of my health and fitness journey, and this was over a decade ago. So this is the foundation that I had. I haven't lifted in a long period of time. As you can see, there's barely any visible muscle. I have no definition or muscle in my chest area at all. No midsection. No, you can't see any abs or anything. Arms, shoulders, really not much muscle or anything at all. And for maybe some of you watching, this might be how you look now, or maybe even possibly with higher body fat or less muscle. I don't know. But just know that everyone has a starting point, right? And my starting point, really, when it comes to really playing the fitness game seriously, strategically, intelligently, and scientifically, was this moment here. And then this was essentially to the right here, the first transformation that I had here. And this, actually, I was able to lose a significant amount of body fat. I believe this was about 15 to 20 pound difference here, with more muscle, as you can see in the shoulders and arms area and the chest area. Primarily, I was doing ketogenic. I was experimenting with the ketogenic diet at the time. It was super popular. Of course, I was primarily doing it just for research purposes. So I was actually doing initially a 30-day challenge. Then that 30-day challenge turned to 60 days, and then it turned into 90 days. And just my own personal experience, again, I'm not here to provide or prescribe nutrition advice to anybody live on this YouTube. Everything we do at Infinite is personalized and customized. But 9 times out of 10, the ketogenic diet does not work for most people. Plain and simple, our brain runs on glucose, and we generate glucose via carbohydrates. And not everyone's body responds well when insulin levels are low, and there's not much glucose going into the brain, and especially the muscle. Is it effective for fat loss? Sure, yeah. If it keeps you in a calorie deficit. I've seen some people go through the ketogenic diet and literally binge eat pizza, cheese, like tons and tons of fatty meats that really push them over their calorie limit. And then I also seen people who lose hundreds of pounds on the ketogenic diet, right? It really is individualized, and it really is, the best practice is one that you can adhere to the most, the one that you can stick to the most when it comes to nutrition. Now, for muscle building, because that's the main topic of discussion here, is the combination of the nutrition and the training here. So this is when I was really focusing on bodybuilding style of training. I wasn't necessarily focusing on the bodybuilding style of training. I was primarily doing a lot of strength training when I was growing up and going through high school. And you can build muscle doing strength training, but this is when I was really focusing on really destroying muscle groups. Like really focusing hard on a single muscle group and isolating that muscle group and training that muscle group rather than compound movements. And part of the reason why is the gym I was training at didn't necessarily had a lot of barbells available. It was a lot of dumbbells, machines, Smith machines, and things like that. So, in a way, I was kind of forced to focus more on the bodybuilding training style. And if you missed my last live and just talking about the Barbarian Class, which got S tier on the best classes to build muscle, bodybuilding is number one. Again, feel free to dive deeper into that live. Feel free to dive into YouTube and rewatch it if you'd like. But just a couple reasons why is number one, you have a lot more freedom and flexibility to spread out the volume, so the training volume that you have, which is primarily the amount of sets, reps, and days that you are kind of training a particular muscle group. So basically you can train a particular muscle group harder or more frequently or with more volume, which can help with the muscle growth process. And then you can also recover more strategically as well, because you could spread out particular days, upper body, lower body days, and so on and so forth. So that's just a couple reasons why muscle building training style, or the Barbarian training style Infinite, which specializes in bodybuilding, is top tier when it comes to building muscle. So other than that, after this, I had my kind of first bulk, and it was I guess you could say like a dirty bulk. I really ate pretty much the same thing every single day. I was a broke college student, so I couldn't like afford to have to get like quality meats or really afford anything that could actually not only improve my muscle building progress but also my results, right? So I was eating like whole wheat pasta literally every single day, that or macaroni, and meat, and that's it. Very little veggies, unfortunately, so health wise not a really good bulk at all. I did fairly well not getting too big when it comes to body fat percentage, and honestly I probably could have gotten much bigger if I could have afforded more food. So that was the bad thing, is like I was highly disciplined with the eating every single day of the same thing, so I was getting the right amount of macronutrients, which is your protein, carbs, and fats. However, calorie wise, I was not quite there, and I could have gotten much bigger than this, much bigger. So something to keep in mind is you have to make sure you're in the right environment for growth, so that you are not just training hard and training often, but you're also feeding your body what it needs to grow. That's a big piece right there. Then I did another cut, and big theme, this is a big learning experience, is when you are cutting, the most difficult aspect of cutting is actually not losing body fat. It's actually preventing losing muscle. That's the most difficult aspect. And you'll see, especially in this photo, I lost quite a bit of muscle. You could kind of see it a little bit, especially in like kind of a little bit in the shoulder area, trap area, and the chest area. My chest isn't as big. This was something that I did at hard cut. So this was a hard cut. I believe at the time this was also when I when I was experimenting with fat loss and doing the ketogenic diet and stuff like that. I'm doing some experimentations with that. So big learning lesson is make sure you're focusing on maintaining muscle. So how do you maintain muscle? Plain and simple. Do not switch to freaking higher reps, lower weight. Do not do that. That is a common misconception. Basically, automatically, when you do that, you are lowering your training volume significantly. And you are doing the opposite of progressive overload. Okay? Progressive overload is the process of continuously challenging your body and your muscles. Okay? Your muscles can't grow without progressively challenging your muscles. So you can do that by either lifting heavier, increasing the amount of weight, increasing the amount of reps that you're doing, or the frequency, or what we just talked about before, volume. Okay? So naturally, when you are in a fat loss phase, you are reducing your calories, okay? Which means naturally you're going to have less energy. And typically, when you have less energy, you're going to perform worse inside the gym, which means you're going to naturally lower your volume over time. It's inevitable, okay? The only way you can avoid that is if you are doing drugs, and that is not what we promote here at Infinite. We promote long-term sustainability over short-term satisfaction. So that's not going to be an approach that's going to be successful for 99% of the population, which is going down the path of doing drugs, right? So big learning lesson is when that happens, you have to make sure you're still trying to maintain your strength, and going into it, you have to have the mindset of trying to improve your strength, okay? Now, whether it's possible or not is, up to you. I have actually proven that you can improve your strength on a cut, but just know that you have to prevent lowering your volume significantly throughout your fat loss phase in order to maintain muscle. And that was something that took me years to figure out how to do, because I did it wrong for so many years. So many years I did it wrong. So focus on maintaining muscle as much as you possibly can. Otherwise, all the hard work you're doing when it comes to building muscle is going out the window when you go through a fat loss phase. All that muscle you built, 20%, 30%, 50, 60, 70% of those muscle gains are now gone by the time you are at the end of your cut. Okay? So the best way to kind of learn how to go through that process effectively so you're not wasting your progress and results is to have a mentor, play Infinite, or go through a program that actually teaches you how to do that. So all that being said, let's continue. Next up in the process was actually figuring out how to effectively build more muscle. Okay, I was learning how to build more muscle. I was learning how to maintain a pretty decent body fat percentage here. This is when I was starting to transition to going into competing in bodybuilding. I was learning a lot more about maintaining muscle on a cut and things like that. Unfortunately, during this time, I was also highly active. So the big thing about that is I was burning a lot of calories. So I wasn't able to do a full-on big bulk back then either, simply because I was just so active. I was training clients multiple times a day. I was also teaching a group class at the time. So I was like moving around for hours and doing movements, doing exercises and stuff like that. So it was very difficult for me to go through actual bulk during this time. So again, to reiterate from before, big advice is make sure you are being conscious of how many calories you're burning, how many calories you are consuming, and monitor your weight. If your weight is stagnant and it's not increasing pretty consistently, then you are most likely not building a substantial amount of muscle or maximizing your muscle gains. Okay? And then when into a cut for a bodybuilding competition. As you can see, I was able to maintain a lot of that muscle, which was very, very difficult. And to be honest, I actually could have been a lot more muscular, which was some of the feedback when I did my competition. I had to actually rush my cut because I wasn't actually lean enough. So I actually lost a good amount of muscle in the last couple weeks leading up to my competition, which is, things that you learn, especially once you get to that level of knowing when you are going to be stage ready or not. But that's a different topic of discussion that we could probably have with Wizard Jasper, which is our barbarian bodybuilding specialist at Infinite. Shout out to Wizard Jasper. And to finish up some of these transformations, just again to kind of walk you through the process before we actually go into training of things that I was incorporating during training and things that you can incorporate, mistakes that I was making, and also just some critiques, is going through that process of gaining weight again, right? There's this vicious cycle of going through a muscle building phase and going through a fat loss phase. And that, as you can see in this picture to the right here, I don't look too happy. Now, am I super overweight? No. But I went through that same process again of gaining a significant amount of body fat. And I kind of rebounded after my bodybuilding competition and kind of looked like this. And which is so common after going through a fat loss phase, right? Is that transition to doing a muscle building phase turns into you going into a dirty bulk phase, which is where you kind of eat whatever you want and lift. And then that's how you kind of get that blocky, that bulky look. Is when you're gaining a whole bunch of weight and you think it's a lot of muscle, but it's really a lot of more body fat than muscle. And that's super common. I've been through that multiple times. And you don't have to go through that if you don't want to. There are ways that you can build muscle without significant body fat, but that process is very slow, and it takes just as much meticulousness as losing body fat, but for building muscle. And most people will not go down that route because most people want fast results, right? Most people want to build muscle fast or build strength fast. And my advice is to take your time, is to practice patience, practice persistence, really understand that this is not a race. Just because you could race for the next 3 months to get as much if you could max out the results that you could get in the next 3 months, what happens in the next 3 months, and the next 3 months, and the next 3 months? And especially a year later, if you're in the same spot as today, right? What's the point, right? It's almost like all that time, all that effort, all that time in the gym is almost like for nothing if you are not making progress, right? So just know that the game is not done once you hit your goals or once you get from point A to point B. The game continues regardless. So play the game, play the long game is the best advice I could give around that. Play the long game. Then, yet another cut. Boom. Next cut. Basically, maintain almost, I'll probably say 90% of my muscle here. So, big thing is typically when you go through a muscle building phase, you inevitably will have to go through a fat loss phase. So just get prepared to know how to maintain your muscle on a cut. And if you don't know how, this is where myself and our other wizards at Infinite can support you with. So, big journey. This isn't even my whole entire transformation journey. This was just a post that I shared on Instagram here. There are so many bulks, so many cuts that I went through. Some successful, some bad, but this is a good timeline, I would say, of the journey of learning how to manipulate muscle in a way that you can retain it, build it, shape it, and just kind of sculpt the physique that you're looking for. So, pretty awesome journey. And you don't have to go through some of the same mistakes that I went through. If you just follow those pieces of advice and wisdom that I shared with you earlier. So yeah. Next, let's talk a little bit about just a couple other moments of kind of going through a couple strategies that I implemented when going through a couple different bulking phases. Now, big thing when it comes to implementing effective muscle building programs and going through that muscle building process is, I always say this: whatever timeline that you have in your brain when it comes to building muscle and going through a muscle building phase, double it. For example, if you think, okay, I'm going to spend the next 4 to 6 months going through a muscle building phase and I'm going to hit my results by then, just double it. Okay? Big reason why is when you do that, you can actually have a lot better progressive approach when it comes to doing that, and you're going to minimize the amount of body fat gain that you're going to have in the process. And also, quite often than not, you won't hit your specific goals. Muscle building has to be bigger than just getting to a weight goal, okay? There has to be other stats, there has to be other metrics that you're measuring when it comes to determining whether or not you're building muscle or building body fat or building strength or building mass in particular areas and things like that. You have to be taking measurements. You have to be monitoring your nutrition, right? You have to be monitoring your progress inside the gym, right? Is your weight going up? How quickly, right? Are you hitting all the muscle groups that you're supposed to be growing the particular areas that you want to be, right? It is an ongoing process that most often lasts much longer than you think. Okay, so always come in with the expectation of, all right, I'm going to be bulking, or I should be focusing on bulking longer than I think I need to. Not just for winter, for 3 months, and then you go through a 3-month, 6-month fat loss phase, right? If you think about it like that, then basically you're building muscle for 3 months, which isn't long enough, and then you're losing all that muscle in 6 months. All those muscle gains are gone out the window. So here's one thing that I did. I went from 170 pounds here to the left to 201 pounds. This is the heaviest that I've ever been. I'd never been over 200. So that was a pretty cool goal to hit, but this took 1 year. And I could have gained much more body fat. As you can see, I did gain some body fat. You can see it in my sides here. I really started to accumulate body fat. And I basically doubled my body fat percentage from around 8.3% to around 15.9%. Increased my lean body mass by about 13 pounds, which is pretty significant lean body mass. So that is basically body mass minus body fat. So basically, not 100% muscle, but a majority of that is muscle. Also, as you can see in the leg area, I train legs. And that is something that I was not doing in the beginning of my muscle building journey. So, yet another piece of wisdom: train legs, and train legs heavy, and train legs often. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. When you train your legs, you will completely transform your physique. There's a reason why when you're training lower body movements, specifically like squatting type movements, you're training the most amount of muscle groups in your body. So that completely changes all the muscle groups in your body, all the stabilizing muscle groups, all those muscles around all the major big muscle groups. So train your legs, train it often. It will completely transform your physique. And as you can see, I gained a significant amount of mass on my legs here. And honestly, I could have gained a lot more if I bulked for longer. Okay? That's the big thing. Also, big challenge that I did during this bulk as well is I was only training 3 days per week. That is huge. I was not training that often. I've trained all different types of training schedules, from 3 days per week, 4 days, 5 days, even upwards to 6 days per week. There is so much more room for growth here. I could have bumped this up from 3 days to 4 days and trained a whole another year on a 4-day schedule and probably could have continued to get results, or I could have progressed even upwards to a 5-day schedule and I could have gotten even much, much bigger. So just know that training frequency is a huge factor when it comes to building muscle. If you increase how many times a week you are training, that means you're increasing the amount of training volume, which means now you're giving your body more time to break down muscle and repair it so it gets bigger and stronger. Of course, recovery is an important factor. So you got to make sure you're recovering enough, you're eating enough, and you're also not overdoing it when it comes to eating, right? Because as you can see here, I started to overdo it a little bit. I had some spillover, had some fat accumulation around my midsection, and that's when I started to overdo it a little bit when it comes to the bulk, right? After a whole entire year. So big recap on this experience is that make sure you're focusing on muscle building longer than you think you should, because building muscle is the longest process in the fitness game. It's the longest process and it's the most difficult. You can go through a fat loss phase in 3 months. You cannot go through a highly beneficial and effective muscle building phase in 3 months. Yes, you can build muscle in 3 months. Yes, you can see some differences, but if you truly want to make a massive change in your body in the amount of muscle you have, it's going to take time. I can't stress that enough. Time is the biggest enemy that you must defeat in the fitness game. Time. So I wanted to kind of show this example of things that I was doing during this bulk and the results I was able to achieve only on a 3-day training schedule, which was a challenge, but it was wild. I was able to achieve this, especially strength-wise. I was able to bump my numbers up pretty high, 315 to 405 on deadlift. Big achievement was the 100-pound increase on the squat. That was really awesome. So lots of success there, lots of learnings there. Now, training wise, something to learn when you're building muscle. Now, some context, this was actually a finisher. So this was actually a burnout set at the end of my leg day, doing barbell Romanian deadlifts, okay? Now, you might look at this and be like, okay, why am I performing these reps very, very fast? Well, again, this was a burnout set. So typically at the end of your workout, you want to do some sort of high repetition burnout set until failure. So basically that's what I was doing. I got a lot of comments on this saying like, oh, their technique and form is wrong. Well, technique is great. Back was stabilized during this movement. It's a lot of weight as well. But when it comes to building muscle, here's something to learn from this video, is you absolutely want to focus on lowering and controlling the weight, okay? So big thing with this is I could have actually gotten a little bit more out of this burnout by just simply focusing more on the lowering phase, so the eccentric portion of this lift. I could have actually gotten a little bit of a deeper stretch, and that would have actually really, really helped out a lot when it comes to maximizing my muscle development here. I was just so focused on speed, 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 and I missed out a big opportunity to just slow it down a little bit. So, big takeaway is slow down your movements, feel the stretch. Really don't rush it, even if it's a finisher set. Don't rush it. Focus on the stretch and the contraction that you're having at the bottom of the movement, and make sure you're contracting hard at the top of the movement as well. Okay? Because when it comes to hypertrophy, really, really make sure that you're having plenty of what we call as time under tension. Make sure you are keeping your muscle tense throughout that whole entire time of going through the movement, okay? Make sure you're keeping it tense. Make sure you're focusing on your form and your technique, so that the more time under tension that you have on that particular muscle group, the more muscle growth that you're going to have. It's not only about time under tension, but it's a very, very important aspect of muscle hypertrophy, which is muscle building. So something to keep in mind. And I wanted to also show this as far as the journey. The journey of building muscle and also building a lean physique at the same time. A lot of people look at muscle building as this thing that you can only do when you want to be big. But if you want to build a lean and defined physique, you have to build muscle. And as you can see, this was my journey of building muscle and losing body fat. And it's, as you can see, every time I leveled up, essentially, I've gotten better and better and better at maintaining the amount of muscle on my body during a cut, just like previously. And this is not, again, trying to be like a bodybuilder at all. This is really just trying to build the physique that I enjoyed when I looked in the mirror, right? Really just focusing on doing better, being better, and learning more, and making less mistakes and things like that. So just know that the journey, there's levels. There's levels to your journey, and it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. Just know that it can take a short amount of time to get to one level, and it could take a long amount of time to get to another level. Just know that it's an evolving journey. It's one that is going to require you to be persistent and play the game for the long term. That's going to be the big thing. Play the game for the long term and progress at your speed, and get to your next level. Never compare yourself to someone else, because that was also a big hindrance in my progress, is comparison with other people around me, the other people that had similar physiques as me. So just know that it's your journey. It's about being better than who you were before. So every time I was leveling up, I was looking at this person. And that's it. And every time I leveled up again, I was looking at this person, and so on and so forth. So it's a journey for the long term. Now, training wise, a little bit more, another tip here when you're building muscle here is make sure you're also trying to train heavy. So it is going to be essential that you are also trying to build strength in the process, okay? Big reason why is if you want to maximize your muscle building potential, you want to also get stronger in the process. Now, I wasn't primarily focusing on muscle hypertrophy during this time. I was actually focusing more on strength. But I was also in a calorie surplus, so I was actually building muscle and strength at the same time. So, big learning lesson is get stronger. Once you get stronger and you're practicing progressive overload, you're gonna build muscle at the same time. So don't be afraid to train heavy. Don't be afraid to do things for a little reps, for a lot of reps, right? It's not just um, doing 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets of 10, right? It's really also practicing progressive overload. And again, that's either increasing the amount of reps that you're doing, the amount of sets that you're doing, the amount of exercises that you're doing, or the amount of frequency that you're training a particular muscle group in a given week. So remember that. It's huge, 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 huge. And last little piece or little nugget that I wanted to share with you is make sure that you are training all of your angles. Okay? So basically at Infinite, everyone at Infinite is a certified pain-free performance specialist, and we learned how to master the 6 foundational movement patterns, which is the squat, the hinge, the lunge, the push, the pull, and the carry. And each one of these movement patterns can be broken down into particular areas of the body or muscle groups that you want to focus on for muscle building. So make sure you're following a training program that's hitting all of your angles. If you're following a training program that's only training back and biceps, chest and tries, and maybe some shoulders or isolation stuff for your legs, you're going to be set up for failure, right? Because you're not hitting all of your angles, you're not hitting all the particular muscle groups to not only maximize your muscle building potential in your whole entire body and throughout your body, but also from a longevity standpoint when it comes to injury prevention and also building an overall balanced physique, right? You don't want to be the person who, or you don't want to be the guy in the gym that has a big chest and have chicken legs, right? Nobody wants to be that guy. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. Maybe some of y'all, maybe. But at Infinite, the Warriors at Infinite, we build a strong physique. And if you want to build muscle, we build muscle throughout our whole entire body. And you can target particular areas to emphasize more than others. For example, a lot of the women warriors like to target their glutes and build bigger glutes. Some other warriors do like to build a big chest or big arms, right? You can emphasize any area that you want, but just make sure that you're also training the other muscle groups as well, and you're hitting all of these movement patterns, so you're hitting all these muscle groups effectively. So that was the last bit of tips over here to kind of utilize and leverage when it comes to training wise what you can do to maximize your muscle building gains here. So I hope you enjoyed that, warrior. Let me hop in the chat. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that breakdown? Did you learn anything? What do you think was the biggest takeaway for you? I see someone mentioned taking shortcuts here is the worst thing you can do. Yep. It's unsustainable. Just Spartacus said, Wizard Jasper. Exactly. In bodybuilding, it takes a year to put on serious muscle, even for the most experienced professionals, bodybuilders taking PEDs. Yeah. Even the people who are taking shortcuts are still taking a significant amount of time and focusing on one particular area. It's just, I think there's a lot of impatience when it comes to health and fitness and playing the game. Is people want results fast and people want results now. And I think that is, unconscious conditioning through marketing and advertising of, on social media, these kind of fad and gimmicks, and all these things that are kind of deterring people from getting the right advice and getting the right guidance when it comes to actually not just creating results, but maintaining the progress. Because you can lose body fat in 2 weeks. Just don't eat, right? But what's going to happen in the process? you're going to lose a ton of muscle, you're going to feel like shit, and you won't be able to stay at that body fat for a while because you're going to end up probably binge eating. So it's like, people don't talk about this. People don't educate people on this. People aren't aware of this, and they just focus on the outcome or the end result rather than the process to get there, and then the repercussions of implementing that process after you get to your goal, right? So get rid of the tunnel vision, and really think beyond. Think from an infinite perspective of not just your end goal, but your goal after that, and your goal after that, and after that, and that should affect what you do today, not how fast can I get to my goals. That's going to be huge, because otherwise you should end up in the same spot as where you started, which is what most people do, and often actually end up much worse. Right? Or end up quitting the fitness game. But last thing I'll say is that this is a lifelong game. You can't choose the game. As long as you're a human being and you're alive, you are playing the health and fitness game. So you can choose not to focus on it, but at the end of the day, you're still playing. So only thing you have control of is how you play the game. And at Infinite, you can play the game in a much more fun, engaging, and effective way. So if you've gotten a lot of value out of today, just imagine how much value you could get by playing Infinite. So if you are not playing Infinite, if you're not exploring one of our 3 realms, the Sanctum, the Academy, or the Dungeon, if you haven't created your avatar and you're not leveling up, you're not training, you're not focusing on your nutrition, you're not improving mentally on your health and fitness journey, consider playing Infinite. As always, this is your Master Wizard Walt, by your side as your guide on your infinite fitness fantasy RPG adventure. And I'll see y'all next Warrior Wednesday for another topic. Actually, I'll see you the following week, because next week is 4th of July. So no live on Wednesday, but we'll be back during normal Wednesday hours, 7 p.m. Pacific time the following week. So if you enjoyed this, let me know. Drop a comment on the video. Send this to somebody that you think would gain some value from this, who maybe might have a muscle building goal. And feel free to reach out if you need any direct support. I'm your wizard by your side. I'll see y'all soon. Take care, Warriors.